Electoral College has now spoken, and in 31 days, Donald Trump will become the president of the United States. And Republicans have a message for Americans frustrated about that fact. Get over it.
They have a message for a crybaby, sore loser left, and that is Donald Trump won. Stop whining. Accept it already.
The election's over. We all know it, and it's time to move on.
Donald Trump's victory is verified, certified, and a done deal. Get over it.
Come on, anti-Trumpers. It's over. You lost. Quit whining.
We won. You lost. Grow the blank up. Move on with your life.
Democrats have not figured out in politics that when you lose, you don't get a second place trophy, you don't get a juice box or a therapy dog.
Hillary Clinton and her team spent $1.2 billion, lost an election they should have won, didn't see us coming, and got a lot of help, frankly, from people in the media who are still trying to fight the last war.
I guess what
campaign is over. This man is the president.
It is worth noting that Trump himself hasn't really gotten over it, even though he won. Instead, he's been holding victory rallies exclusively in the states that voted for him, where he has spent much of his time just relitigating the election. Today, after Bill Clinton reportedly said Trump, quote, doesn't know much, the president-elect of the United States took time out of his day to tweet, quote, Bill Clinton stated that I called him after the election. Wrong, he called me. Before adding it's actually Bill Clinton who doesn't know much, not him. And there's the fact that this was no normal election, and not just because Hillary Clinton beat Trump in the popular vote by just under 3 million votes. According to U.S. intelligence agencies, foreign power Russia intervened in the election specifically to help one of the candidates, Donald Trump, win. One might ask whether Republicans would have just moved on, just gotten over it, had Russia intervened to help a Democrat. Plus, we now have new evidence that FBI Director James Comey really may have swung the election with his highly publicized letters about Clinton's emails. When pollsters re-interviewed a set of voters they talked to in mid-October just before the first Comey letter, they discovered that Trump saw a net gain of 2.3 percentage points among these same voters between mid-October and the election, while Clinton saw a net loss of 1.7 points, a total spread of 4 points. Now, we can't attribute this all to Comey, but the timing is hard to ignore. As Nate Silver tweeted today, these were the same voters being resurveyed, so data suggests Trump win wasn't baked in. Something changed at the end of the campaign. But let's say you somehow put all that aside. You bracket Putin and Comey and the popular vote, all of it. There is still what we call, in honor of a seminal public service announcement, the I learned it from watching you factor. Republicans have spent the last 8 years engaged in a historic campaign of obstruction that began right from the start. On the night Barack Obama was inaugurated, House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy reportedly told his colleagues, if you act like you're the minority, you're going to stay in the minority. We've got to challenge them on every single bill and challenge them on every single campaign. As Michelle Obama discussed in a new interview, that's pretty much how it played out.
There were people in Congress, there were leaders in Congress who did not support his presidency, which was not something that was good for the country. It was good for politics, but it wasn't good for the country.
Michelle and Barack Obama say they're refusing to take that route for the good of the country. They've been supportive of Trump since the election, say they plan to help him succeed. Many Americans want Democrats to fight, to adopt many of the same tactics as the Republican Party that, for instance, shut down the government or risked default to get its way, that refused to let President Obama name a justice to the Supreme Court for over 300 days, that just recently in the state of North Carolina engaged in an absolutely unprecedented legislative maneuver post-election to take power away from the new Democratic governor. Yesterday, Kellyanne Conway claimed that the professional political left is attempting to foment a permanent opposition that is corrosive to our constitutional democracy, adding the left is trying to delegitimize his election. A remarkable statement from someone who ran the presidential campaign of a candidate who built his political career on the racist conspiracy theory the president wasn't born in the U.S., an attempt to literally delegitimize President Obama.
I would like to have him show his birth certificate. And can I be honest with you? I hope he can. Because if he can't, and if he wasn't born in this country, which is a real possibility, I'm not saying it happened, I'm saying it's a real possibility, much greater than I thought 2 or 3 weeks ago, then he has pulled one of the great cons in the history of politics.
Joining me now, Democratic strategist Jess McIntosh, who worked in the Hillary Clinton campaign, Republican strategist Sarah Isgur Flores, former deputy campaign manager for Carly Fiorina. Jess, let me start with you. You know, I see people, I've seen folks on the left and conservatives basically say liberals are losing their mind. That they've totally lost their mind.
No, we're just fine. Everything's fine.
That they've totally lost their mind. And one of the examples they give was all this run up to the Electoral College, this idea that they were going to persuade electors that was a weird use of energy, that they're getting pulled hither and yon in Russia conspiracy theories. What's your response?
Look, I think think that there are a lot of places to put your anger and your outrage and your concern and your genuine fear this election. And I think that I can see the frame that Democrats are doing it wrong being an easy one, because you know who the Democrats are and you know where to put your outrage and you know which congressional offices to call.
Right.
The truth is, we dealt with foreign interference in our election. We dealt with an FBI where day after day some new revelation comes up that says they acted hugely inappropriately. We dealt with the Electoral College, which for the first time took away the presidency from somebody who had 3 million more in the popular vote. And we dealt with Republican gerrymandering that just strategically disenfranchised black people across the country. Those are terrifying institutional issues that we have in our democracy. So asking whether Democrats should have undermined our principles and democracy more, I think probably isn't the best way to go about challenging these things, but I don't know who to call to fix those.
Right. So, Sarah, I for a long time, I remember covering the Tea Party, and people thought, wow, those people are losing their minds. They're screaming at people in rallies. And then I remember covering birtherism and thinking, this is deranged. This is a deranged theory that is being promoted by a con artist, and huge parts of the Republican base are going for it. They're flirting with it. He's going to get the Mitt Romney endorsement. He's going to show up at CPAC. This is a group of people losing their mind. It turns out that was incredibly politically effective. Isn't the answer here that sustained efforts at total delegitimization, no matter how deranged, is actually the path back to power?
Well, I think as long as Democrats continue to blame these, very but-for causes, let's even stipulate that the Comey letter did actually affect people's votes at the end. How did we get the Comey letter? We got the Comey letter because Hillary Clinton decided to have a secret server in her basement, and then Bill Clinton, who now seems to have forgotten how this all came about, tried to have a secret meeting with Attorney General Lynch, who then had to recuse herself, putting Comey front and center.
The server wasn't secret. I have to correct that. The server was not secret.
They had a meeting on a tarmac at a private airport when they were exchanging out of their private
but there's
planes
a million other
and hoping that no one saw them.
There's a million other but-fors about that, right? I mean,
that's right, but Democrats don't want to acknowledge
causal
how
events.
we got there.
Right,
That's right. Democrats don't want to acknowledge that, and so they just want to pretend that this was taken from them. This sense of entitlement, I think, just politically isn't a very smart move.
But that's my
if you're
point.
trying to look at 2018 when they're on defense in a lot of these states that Trump won, they've got to protect their senators, and they're not doing it the way that they're spending millions of dollars on recounts.
See, that's
in states that don't even matter if you flip them.
Sarah, but that's exactly my point. I would normally, I think, actually agree with you. I genuinely think this, like descriptively, right? I would normally agree with you. But then I look at the way the Republican Party responded to Barack Obama's election, which was the normal thing you think is this guy has very high approval ratings, and you got to give Republican senators cover so that they can vote with him on some things, bring some things tangibly back home. They didn't do that. It paid off huge. They engaged in all sorts of insane conspiracy theorizing that turned out to elect the next president of the United States. So it just seems like the playbook, the model here is the more deranged, the more obstinate, and the more you obstruct, that actually is going to be the thing that benefits you most politically.
That is not why Republicans won, in my opinion. But on top of that, Republicans didn't challenge the constitutional basis of how we run elections based on the Electoral College.
They said the president was constitutionally.
Democrats are talking about the popular vote.
They said the president was not constitutionally.
We didn't have recounts in 2008 saying that it was John McCain's election and Barack Obama took it from him.
Right.
You would have lost your mind. Your head would have rolled off your body if we had said that.
They said Acorn stole it, first of all. But just to be clear here, the entire point of the birther movement was precisely that. I mean, it was actually a perfect mirror argument. The birther movement said the man is not the legitimate president of the United States because he's constitutionally ineligible, because he's not a natural-born citizen, as required by the Constitution. And the person who is the most prominent advocate of that position is the next president of the United States. So this was not a totally fringe theory, Jess.
We can't just play the, I guess we should all just try to delegitimize as hard as possible because that's the right way to win strategy. Because there actually isn't. Like, I'm going to appeal to the media on this one. False equivalence has to stop. Democrats can't play the same game that Republicans can play because we think that government can work for people, and we think that there are people who need it. Republicans don't believe either of those things. So delegitimizing those who take power and the ways they take power and what they do with them always will serve their interests. Democrats can't play that game because we believe that things can be done for people who need them.
So you think something like, okay, so to game this out, and I'll come back to you in a second,
Donald
Sarah.
Trump is probably Alan Grayson. We couldn't get him elected president if we tried. I wouldn't vote for him.
Well, but so the way that cashes out, right, is that when you're talking about something like an infrastructure bill, what you're saying is, if you're a senator who thinks we do need an infrastructure bill, you work with new President Trump to say, yeah, how could we come to terms on that? You think they should do that?
I think that it's tough. I don't believe that they're going to be met with people coming to the table in good faith.
Okay,
so I think that they need to be incredibly skeptical, possibly even more skeptical than they were under George W. Bush, about the terms that they meet with Republicans.
What about Sarah's point, though, and I'll come back to you in a second, Sarah. So what about Sarah's point, though, I think, which is a good one, which is, look, in this tangible sense of 2018, right, like, let's say Comey and, you know, and Putin, right? Sure, none of that has anything to do practically with a party that's lost almost 1,000 legislative seats during the Obama years, that's lost a whole bunch of state houses, and now is defending a lot of people.
But let's talk about how and why
we
we lost those state houses. Let's talk about gerrymandering. Let's talk about voter disenfranchisement. Let's talk about racist voter ID laws.
Sure, but how is that
the next 2 years?
Okay, but how is that operationalized to help those senators?
Well, I think that if we are allowing people to vote in the numbers that they are constitutionally allowed to vote, we are going to see more Democrats elected. That's why I know I'm on the right side of this fight, is I want more people voting.
Sarah, do you think Mitch McConnell said something fascinating to me right after the election? He said parties have a tendency to overinterpret their mandate, and I you know, there has been this sort of pendular swing. And I remember 2004 thinking everyone said the Democrats are a dead party after, you know, they're dead. And 2006 later, they of course win the House. I remember 2008 saying the Republicans are dead and emerging Democratic majority by yada yada yada. Do you think Republicans have internalized that fear about the pendulum?
Well, I actually want to also agree with something that was just said, which is that there is this asymmetric warfare between Republicans and Democrats. On both sides, by the way, benefit and lose from it. Yes, Democrats say that government works for people. But why Donald Trump actually got elected is that the government hasn't been working for people. It's grown incompetent and corrupt. And so people wanted change from that. And so, yes, Republicans offered that and Democrats lose with that. On the flip side, Democrats are often attacked for offering free stuff. Right. And Republicans are like, no, we don't want to give stuff. So I think that asymmetry works both ways. And I also think
didn't
that
Donald Trump offer stuff?
I don't think so.
He said he's going to open the coal mines back up.
Right.
Yeah, those are jobs. That's a jobs policy that both sides, I think, generally have proposed their jobs policy. But look, gerrymandering can't be blamed for losing 12 governorships, 13 Senate seats. Fine, if you want to, again, stipulate the House seats, okay. But this idea that Democrats can keep feeling this entitlement that, well, it's just being taken from us, you're going to keep losing. And yes, I do think Republicans shouldn't overplay their mandate, but there is a mandate for change, and there is a mandate for making government work and for getting rid of this enormous bureaucracy that is just feeding itself. There's a reason that there's cranes all over D.C. when the rest of the economy was in a recession. It's got to stop.
It's doing pretty well in Austin, too. Jess McIntosh and